Good morning. We are working on conflicts. This is the third session, and we want to work on the beginning of conflicts. Well, we are surrounded by lots of conflicts, wars, especially between Russia and Ukraine, and EU, America, China, Asia, lots of countries are conflicting. And even the individual people experience lots of conflicts. In ourselves and between people, and between groups, there are lots of conflicts. So we have to just admit that we have to live with conflicts no matter what. But how we can solve the conflicts and resolve those conflicts, those are the keys. Well, sometimes you can ignore some conflicts. That's a way of resolving the conflicts. Avoiding conflicts and neglecting or ignoring conflicts can be certain ways of dealing with conflicts. We want to just confront with the conflicts or just avoid the conflicts, but conflicts are there. But the problem is how those conflicts begin, how those conflicts starts. When we just understand the beginning of conflicts, we can, understand how we can deal with those conflicts. And there are lots of triggers making conflicts, right? So, for example, if you have you have lots of money, so you don't have to worry about the money and you don't have to work. That's good. You don't have any financial problems. As long as you can buy and you can use and as much as you want, it's okay. Good. But how to take care of your assets. Okay. And so even the rich has conflicts on monetary, economically, financially. And there are beginnings of conflicts. Maybe we can prevent some conflicts if we understand the beginnings, or we can have some ideas on how to take care of those conflicts. If we know those beginnings, and then it's gonna be easier to take care of those things. All right. Conflict develops when disputes escalate beyond the control of the parties involved. Okay. So when two parties, for example, husband and wife, this typical conflict situation, right? Husband and wife. There's a husband and wife. They are fighting on something, okay? They are arguing on something, or they are exchanging their ideas on something, like raising children or taking care of money for the living, and their relocations and their futures or their past. So when disputes escalate, I got more angry, and it's heated up, and then a conflict develops. When we just talk about, what is your schedule today? Oh yeah, I'm gonna just go for lunch with my friends. Okay, bye. Is there any conflict? No. Right? But what if your husband forgot the lunch appointment with you? Then that's gonna be a big problem, right? Why you forgot that? Do you think having lunch with your friends is more important than having lunch with me, your wife? What if your husband says sorry and cancel the lunch meeting with his friend? It's gonna be okay. But still, it can hurt your wife's heart, emotions, mood. Do you think they're gonna have a really good time? Because your husband really feels sorry to his friend. I don't know whether that is woman or man. But the forgetting the lunch appointment itself can, affect their relationships. They can just stop there and they can go outside for the lunch. That's good. That's good. But what if they argue on the, forgetting or lunch meeting or something like that? And it can, escalate. It's your fault. How come you forget it? Oh, I'm sorry. I said I'm sorry. And I canceled the lunch meeting with my friend or my business partner. So we are on the way to the lunch, having lunch. So let's just forget it. How can you forget it? there are lots of possibilities. We can escalate the disputes. Okay? Then conflicts can be developed. The elements of conflict are deeply embedded in human psyche, or psyche in Greek, psyche, heart, mind. Okay, the elements of conflict are deeply embedded in human psyche. So they're gonna think. There is something in their minds. They got stuck with something, in their minds. And, many things are psychological. Because we cannot leave our mind and thoughts, feelings, emotions, because those are in us. Those are in us, okay? You cannot separate your emotions from yourself. No, you cannot do it. Your head is there, your heart is there, your mind is there. You cannot separate those things. Well, we are not robots. I don't know, in the future they're gonna control the robots. So, robots. But human beings, we are trying to put the emotions on the robots so that they can understand us and comfort people and take care of the people. But I don't know, it's gonna make some, tragedies or later on or not. I don't know. I watch some science movies and for the future, Matrix or many other things, and then I don't know what will happen later on, because nowadays we are having self-pilot, self-driving cars, and we already got a movie, actually movies regarding the autopilot cars, because since those cars are controlled by the program, and then it relies on the satellites, and satellites watching all the road conditions, and they control speed and brake, many things. And you can start your car with your cell phone now. If you don't know it, you are behind of the modern science. You can start your car with your cell phone remotely from the remote place. Okay, you can control the AC. You can control the windows. You can control, your car with your cell phone. So the cell phone, you know, gave us. I mean, change has been changing. The cell phones have been changing our lives drastically. So we do everything with our cell phones. As long as we carry a smartphone, we think we are smart. Okay. Well, human beings are smart. But what if somebody hack the GPS and autopilot system? You are driving to your school, but the hacker or your parents can control that car you are in to the parents' house instead of the school. So what if you are on the way to a club on Friday night, but your parents can control your car, so that car can come to the parents' house instead of the club? I watched a kind of preview a movie, and then it shows that, wow, the boyfriend controlled the girlfriend's parents' cars, so they got crashed and they died because girlfriend's parents didn't like the boyfriend, and the boyfriend got mad and he hacked the autopilot system. Psychic conflicts. We cannot separate those things from us. And there can be lots of things, and those can escalate the conflicts or reduce the conflicts. It is probably no exaggeration to suggest that it is part of the condition of virtually all forms of life. Conflict is inevitable amongst the human species. Yes. I don't see anybody. I'm pretty sure that there's nobody without any conflicts. Well, I have conflicts. I have conflicts with myself, with my families, with my, communities. There are always conflicts. As long as you are alive, you have conflicts. What if you die? Your descendants, children, or families there will be conflicts. I'm pretty sure, because they have to divide your stuff, your assets, your heritages. Conflict is inevitable amongst the human species. Yeah. Even the desire for improvement can generate conflict, as this is attainable only at the expense of others. Even the desire for improvement can generate conflict, as this is attainable only at the expense of others. All right, so you wanna reduce the conflicts you have, and you have to work on it. For the reducing the conflicts between you and your husband or you and your wife, you have to sacrifice some. But when you sacrifice some, you want to request your spouse to sacrifice a little bit or same amount, as much as you sacrificed. That's what we all do. That's what we all think. If you don't want to sacrifice, but you request your spouse to sacrifice some, can you believe that can work? It is pretty hard. It's pretty hard. So reducing, escalating is way easier than reducing the conflicts we have. Yes. That's why it is so hard. Russia invaded Ukraine. It's been 2 months, I think, already. Yeah. But lots of people died. The Russian soldiers died. Ukraine soldiers and civilians died. Even kids died. According to the today's report, lots of Ukraine girls and ladies got raped by Russian soldiers. It's tragedy. It's tragedy. Because there is nobody to protect those girls and ladies and women. And Russians, they are invaders. There's nothing, they can, they can do whatever they want, they think. That's what they think. So they just rape those women. Because of the, it's a kind of way of, revenge or showing the dominance. Those things are happening always. When Japan occupied and colonized Korea, China, they just made lots of Korean women, Chinese women, as a sexual slave. They used and molested and they raped, those women. And they are denying it because they paid to those women. That's what they say. But everybody knows, all people know, they made those colonized countries' women as sexual slaves. Only they don't want to, admit that. They don't want to, ask forgiveness because I don't know. Their mentality is pretty weird. Even Germany, asked forgiveness and repented and said sorry to all countries, especially to the Jews. But Japan, never. Just a few, some civilians did, but majority of politicians are ignoring or pretend that they don't know, or they don't say anything, or they say since they paid for that, those are not those were just work, like a prostitute. Yeah. Do you think Ukrainian women are getting money from Russian soldiers and doing prostitutes? Yeah. The basic human needs ranges from physical to spiritual needs, and these needs are not negotiable. That's why people are fighting and complaining against to the Chinese government. The Shanghai got locked down because of the coronavirus by the government, and the government is providing some food to those people, and there are lots of people in Shanghai. That's a big city, and they can go out any other places, but they got stuck in the city, the huge city. I think more than 20 million people are living. I think I don't know what's the correct populations in Shanghai, but that's pretty big city. Okay, they are hungry. They are hungry. They have no freedom. They got stuck in their homes. But these human needs are universal. That's same to all people. There is no exceptions. When you are hungry, you will go crazy, and you're gonna eat whatever you can eat. I mean, literally, whatever you can eat, you're gonna chew. During the Korean War in which is broken 1950, there was one out. There was the top five. It was in the top five wars in human history. So the top five, biggest war. And I was told that people used to eat this and that, whatever they can eat, even rats. Well, I saw, some Thailand kids, caught a rat and they just cook it. They just took the skin off and, saved that in the refrigerator without any covering. Because they don't use, vinyl wraps or cooking foil. They just put that on a dish with the tail on, and they cook it and they ate it as a snack. Well, it's disgusting to other people, but people eat, and all people go crazy when they are hungry. We cannot imagine. We can imagine. I mean, there were lots of episodes like those. When people go crazy, they go crazy when they are hungry, when they haven't sex for a while, and especially guys and girls, and they go crazy. Because those are basic instincts: sleeping, eating, pooping, peeing, having sex, and those are basic instincts. If those are not resolved, people go crazy. Every human being demands the satisfaction of these needs as they are common to all of us. It's happening to all people. So we cannot blame people who go crazy when they are hungry, when they couldn't sleep for a while, when they want to poop, when they want to just have sex or something. I don't know if that is true or not, but in some countries, when they want to just poop, they just poop on the streets. And they don't hesitate to show their private parties, because for the pooping, you want to open you want to just your underwear down, and they poop on the streets. When I was young, I got shocked because in the corner, in the dead end, a lady just rushed to the corner. I was a little boy, and she just, put down her pants and peed on the ground. And eventually I just realized that I couldn't see her, but cause she's peeing on the ground down there, but I couldn't see her because I just turned my face to other place. But somebody told me that she's working in a little bar, so I think she drank lots of beer. just human instincts. Well, the lack of satisfaction or suppression by those expected to satisfy these needs is a major source of conflict. So, solving those conflicts, so we need to provide some food to the hunger. Then they're not gonna make riots, you know. But I think there are some more instincts and basic instincts like human rights and kind of self-esteem or just pride. I think I have to say pride. When they got hurt their pride, then they go crazy too. When you are humiliated by people, you will go crazy too. You will go crazy, why not? Okay. Well, people just try to humiliate others on purpose because they have conflicts or bad feelings, so they want to just attack those people that way, and then it depends on what kind of characters they have. All right. So, if there are conflicts between the rich and the poor, the rich can share some food to the poor. That's what the government is supposed to do. Yeah, for with the tax system, the proper tax system, you can get more taxes from the rich, and just use that money for the poor. Because poor people have reasons to be poor. The rich people have reasons to be rich. I mean, but the rich people are having a lot of things, but they don't want to get attacked by the poor people. Because when you are poor and when you can eat properly, you go crazy and you're gonna blame the rich. Because those people, used your human power for making money, but they are having a lot of things, but they don't share, things with you, or, good enough, and then you can go crazy. You work 40 hours per week to your employer, and then you get just a little money. It's one so-called minimum, but your owner, the employer, makes $1 million a month, $100,000 a month. You can just request more. I mean, the owner is making money. Well, I can understand that the owners, the employers invested lots of money for the businesses. Well, but what if the employees, the poor people, complain about it and they go strike and they don't work? And what the rich people can get from the business? Well, lots of business owners are trying to have automation, which means all things are working properly by robots and machines and systems and computers. They use just way less people than before, because they don't want to mess with their employees, and the unions are kind of hard to take care of, hard to deal with, and so they can just have a hard time. There can be huge conflicts between the employer and employees. Conflicts can also originate from stereotypes. Okay, basic instincts and stereotypes and prejudice against people of other race or ethnicity. Black lives matter. Asian lives matter. All lives matter. You know, America has tragic, kind of a sad history because European people just fled their countries and just landed on this, Northern America, the new continent, and they just, tried to survive here, and later on they colonized all the territories, and they just, killed lots of Native Americans, and they just brought lots of African Americans as their slaves, and they just, just abused those people from Africa. They just use those African people as animals for farming, for kind of cow farms or cotton farms, corn farms, and they raped lots of African American slaves because they could control those people. They had guns, they had whips, they had sticks, they had money to control those slaves the way they like. It's been a long time. That continued for a long time until the end of the Civil War. Okay. Well, that history is continuing nowadays, so it's kind of sad. But America has kind of ultimate power in military area, especially, and our country is helping other countries at the same time nowadays. Okay, for the order of this world. That's what I believe. But there are some ugly faces because there are two sides in a coin. Like Guantanamo, there was a hearing for a long time because there were in Guantanamo, the camp. They just exercised lots of torturings, which is prohibited by the UN law. Okay. The struggle, the prejudice and stereotypes against people of other race and ethnicity. So lots of Americans were thinking. They did think. They used to think, and some people are still thinking that Asian people brought coronavirus, but no one knows when it got started from, and no one knows when and where the cold got started. Flu got started, AIDS got started. So, but when we have some people are thinking that the AIDS started from Africa because of the same sexual relationships. That was popular in Europe countries. Why people made that up? I think that people made that up. Who made that up? The countries which have same-sexual relationships are popular. European countries, I think. And there are lots of LGBTQs, and we cannot blame those people because, age or something. Scientifically, they can be right, but no one knows when and where those got started. But we just make it up for blaming others rather than ourselves. And just Asians and Africans, got killed a lot. Africans are minors actually, but way more Africans got caught by police officers on the streets. A professor I know, he passed away already, and that was very sad for me because I just learned the sociology from him. He was a great person, Dr. James Noel in San Francisco Theological Seminary. He was a great guy. Very kind, very not, he was a great scholar, and I got help, from him a lot. And one day he just told me that because the San Francisco Theological Seminary is located in the middle of White Town, and one day he just told me that what if his son, hold his cell phone in his hand. That's what we do, right? In our hands. Maybe at night or in the daytime. What if police officers see his son holding his cell phone, but he was just passing by a criminal scene or something or anything near that, then his son has no idea what's going on. But what if the police officers shoot him because they think his son is holding a gun? Looks like it can look like a gun when you just shake your hands, while you are walking, right? That's what he used to concern. Because he was a black American, he had to be careful in many ways. That's what he confessed. That's what he said to me. It was sad, right? When you walk in Koreatown or any places on the street, you have to be careful because some crazy people are attacking Asians. They hit, they push, they spat. I can't believe that we are living in the United States. I can't believe that we are living in 21st century. But the human beings, their characters, they are not educated or they go crazy, because of the stereotype and misunderstanding and prejudices. People can go crazy, and there are lots of crazy people. A guy shoot people in New York subway. He bombed the smoke and he shot lots of people in the subway. New York, near Brooklyn. Or Brooklyn or Bronx. Can you believe it? And there were 8 consecutive gun shootings in New York in few minutes. Because of the conflicts. Conflict is also a consequence. The struggle to maintain one's identity in the face of aggression from a more predominant race can escalate into massive violence and chaos. Conflict is also a consequence of poor governance, presence of all illegitimate government, absence of the rule of law, and the denial of individual rights. We are boasting, the human rights we have in this country, but those things are happening. So which means we need better government. We need more legitimate government. We need to address more stronger law and rule. Okay, we need to stress more on individual rights, individual human rights. The human rights means whites, blacks, Asians, or whatever. Humans are humans. As I told you last time, no Christians can be racist. As long, once you are a Christian but you are a racist, that doesn't go together. Because we believe God is the creator. And we cannot blame God by discriminating others, other races. How can we blame God's creating work? Okay, so we are spending Lent, and this is the Holy Week, and we're gonna have the Good Friday soon. The day after tomorrow is Good Friday. Probably pretty soon. So just think about it. What he did, what Jesus did for all of us. He died only for the white. He died only for the black. He died only for the Asians. No, he died for all. Even God sent his only son to all people, to all races. How can we judge others by skin color, race, ethnicity? It's ridiculous. Once you do have that kind of theory or theology in your mind, you are not Christian anymore. You will go hell. That's what I believe. Because I believe in one God who created all the universe and all people. He's still working on that. Okay? A short synopsis of various human conflicts stemming from internal and external strife will show that conflicts can originate from different sources. These conflicts spring from variances in the relationships between various groups or between citizens and their state leaders. Humans have always been engaged in conflicts as far back as the old kingdom of pharaohs and dynasties. Okay? So there are lots of conflicts in a country. For example, in the United States, there are lots of conflicts between the Native Americans and all immigrants, including me. You know, besides the Native Americans, Native, Indian Americans, all are immigrants, whether they came early or late or today. We all are immigrants. Those immigrants came, what reasons they came to the States, no matter what, all those people are immigrants. It doesn't matter who established this country. Okay? When you just go into your neighbor's, one of your neighbor's house, and you started your family in there, and you just announce that that is your house. Is that your house? You are invaders. You just broke in the house. Okay? As long as your neighbor just accepts you as the residents in the house and share the house together, and you'll be okay. You know what I mean? So we all are immigrants. I'm in Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. And that started actually in Missouri. That's why it is Missouri Synod. It's the center of LCMS, Lutheran Church. Were they born in there? No, they just escaped the, their country, especially mainly German. Okay, and just sailed to this continent and try to follow all the rivers up to the Missouri, and they just settled down there. And that denomination is established by the immigrants. Were they documented? No. There was, excuse me. Excuse me. There was no documents for the immigration, but they just came. Well, that's what happened. That's what happened. So there are lots of conflicts in groups, in ethnicity, in ethnic groups, in races, in people, neighbors, okay? And there are conflicts between the rich and the poor. All cities are supposed to have certain amount of houses for the poor or low income. That's our law, okay? But do you think they build the low-income houses between the rich? No, they don't do that. They form the rich town and the poor town in a city. It's what happened to Irvine also. So they built very good houses on top of the mountains, and they just built kind of ghetto-like, well, Irvine is expensive, but the ghetto-like townhouses and apartments in certain area. Okay, they don't mix it because they don't like it, and both parties can be uncomfortable with each other's, because or how a family is eating steaks and the next door neighbor is eating cereals. I mean, the you are driving Mercedes and your next door neighbors are walking or biking. It's uncomfortable with each other. So they built their own sections for the rich and for the poor. And there can be some conflicts between them. But I don't see any particular conflicts between those groups in Irvine, but they feel it maybe. Some Egyptologists attribute the sudden collapse of the old kingdom of Egypt to the long reign of Pepi II, Pepi II. His long reign is regarded as the underlying root cause of the struggle for power among his sons. So the Egyptian empire got collapsed because of the Pepi II's sons. They fought for the power because there was only one king. So you got 10 kids, 10 sons, and 10 sons are gonna compete for the crownship, right? The only one person can be a king. And what about other nines? So they just fought against each other's and they grouped each other's for the better, fighting. So you don't want to fight against 9 people, but you want to just form 6 people and then attack for the weak, people, the weak group. And after that, you're gonna just compete in 6. So you're gonna fight against each other again and again and again. That's what people are doing, okay? All right. The Roman Empire revolution occurred through a century of constant civil strife and sometimes of open warfare. Okay, the Roman empires, there were lots of conflicts also, right? Even though Roman Empire just made the Pax Romana, the peace of Rome, or Roman peace, and they just tried to they colonize the ethnic groups and races and countries, and you know, um, kind of mild ways, which means they just acknowledged their culture and they just let other countries or tribes run their own countries and tribes as much as they want, but they belong to the Roman Empire. Okay, that is quite different with what Japan did, and Japan just colonized Korea and China, and they just pushed those colonized countries and Philippines and colonized those. I mean, Philippines occupied by America, and they just exchanged the agreement for just supporting each other countries, each other, so those countries can occupy Philippines and Korea. And after they occupied those countries, including Korea, they just pushed those people to change their names, like a Japanese style, just Japanese name, and they just pushed the people to use Japanese culture, many other things. So lots of low culture got imported to Korea for that since then. Okay. Well, people some even just undereducated Korean people are thinking that they got colonized by Japan because they had higher culture or something. No, because they had guns and gunpowders, not because they had better culture or um, kind of writings or scholars or something. Okay, do you think the PhD holders can beat gangsters always? No, they're gonna get beaten by gangsters. Then do you think the gangsters have higher standards? No, they just can beat PhD holders because they are stronger and they know how to fight. That's exactly what happened in Korea, between Korea and Japan. Okay, and the Roman Empire revolution occurred through a century of constant civil strife and sometimes open warfare. And contemporaries who lived through the third century upheavals looked back on the previous ages as one of peace and prosperity. But in reality, it could be said that Rome had lurched from crisis to crisis ever since its foundation in 753 BC. So there had been lots of conflicts and wars and struggles. So that was the reality, okay? Two of the most serious threats to the empire in the 3rd century were the developments taking place among the tribes of the northern frontiers beyond the Rhine and Danube, and the growth of a formidable centralizing power in the east. So even though that empire, Roman Empire, they proclaimed the Pax Romana, but even the Roman Empire had to have the conflicts, all kinds of conflicts here or there. Okay, that's the beginning of the conflicts. There are always beginning of the conflicts. There are conflicts and there are always beginnings. And there's tons of reasons to start the conflicts. Okay. Sometimes it is too complicated to understand one conflict because there are so many reasons. Okay, so many problems, and then they can have serious conflict. Okay, we cannot say just one or two reasons to begin a conflict because sometimes there can be so many different things. For example, I just, as I said, husband just forgot the lunch meeting with lunch appointment with his wife. Okay, what if he did, in the past, and he forgot second time this time? What if he just showed kind of a cold shoulders to his wife for last week? What if this wife showed cold shoulders to the husband? Maybe he made another lunch appointment with his friend because he didn't want to. Because he doesn't want to eat the lunch with his wife. Okay. Maybe they just argued on something else on for the children's education because their son made some problem. Okay, and they had different ideas and opinions. What if the husband got a phone call from his wife, his mother-in-law, and got complained, lots of complaint from her. There can be lots of things. The dispute that led to the American Civil War from 1861 to 1865 occurred between the American northern and southern states, free and slave states. The conflict stemmed from uncompromising differences between the free and slave states over the power of the national government to prohibit slavery in the territories that had not yet become states. Okay? So that was really sad war between the North and South. And you can see, there are big differences still. Okay, the northern states just said no slaveries, but all people are same, so all people are free. Well, at first they didn't have solid theory for that, but that's what they had. The southern states' positions were quite different, so they wanted to keep slavery for their farming more and more. Okay, and they just fought for long times, and lots of people died. The southern states, slave states, decided to secede and from their own nation, the Confederate States of Americas. So they wanted to form their own countries. So northern states country and southern states countries. Northern states refused to recognize secession by the southern states because they feared that it would undermine the democratic system and eventually fragment the United States into small, squabbling countries. Okay? The American Civil War was the largest and most destructive conflict in the Western world between the end of the Napoleonic Wars in 1815 and the other onset of World War I. Okay, so that was the biggest war between those two wars. I just got some quotes from the Wikipedia so we can understand the Civil War a little bit more. The American Civil War, April 12th, 1861 through May 9th, 1865, also known by other names, was a civil war in the United States between the Union states that remained loyal to the Federal Union or the North, and the Confederacy states that voted to secede or the South. Okay, the central cause of the war was the status of slavery, especially the expansion of slavery into territories acquired as a result of the Louisiana Purchase and the Mexican-American War. On the eve of the Civil War in 1860, 4 million of the 32 million Americans were enslaved black people. 32 million. 4 million of the 32 million of Americans were enslaved black people. Okay, so that is 1/8. Almost all in the South. Okay? The practice of slavery in the United States was one of the key political issues of the 19th century. The case of political unrest over slavery led up to the Civil War. This union came after Abraham Lincoln won the 1860 United States presidential election on an anti-slavery expansion platform. An initial 7 southern slave states states declared their secession from the country to form from the Confederacy. Confederate forces seized the federal forts within territory they claimed. The last-minute Crittenden compromise tried to avert conflict but failed. Both sides prepared for war. Okay, so that's the beginning. Fighting broke out in April 1861 when the Confederate Army began the Battle of Fort Sumter in Southern Carolina, just over a month after the first inauguration of Abraham Lincoln. So they didn't like Abraham Lincoln. The Confederacy grew to control at least a majority of territory in 11 states out of the 34, so 1/3, and asserted claims to 2 more, and both sides raised large volunteer and conscription armies. 4 years of intense combat, mostly in the South, ensued. During 1861 to 1862, in the war's Western theater, the Union made significant permanent gains, though in the war's Eastern theater, the conflict was inclusive. On January 1st, 1863, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, which made ending slavery a war goal, declaring all persons held as slaves in states in rebellion forever free to the West. The Union destroyed the Confederate River Navy by the summer of 1862, then much of its western armies, and seized New Orleans. Okay. The successful 1863 Union siege of Vicksburg split the Confederacy in two at the Mississippi River. In 1863, Confederate General Robert Lee's incursion north ended at the Battle of Gettysburg. So the Lincoln just gave a speech in Gettysburg, and that is the very famous one. Western successes led to General Ulysses Grant's command of all Union armies in 1864, inflicting an ever-tightening naval blockade of Confederate ports. The Union marshaled resources and manpower to attack the Confederacy from all directions. This led to the fall of Atlanta in 1864 to Union General William Tecumseh Sherman and his march to the sea. The last significant battles raged around the 10-month siege of Petersburg, gateway to the Confederate capital of Richmond. Okay. The Civil War effectively ended on April 9, 1865, when Confederate General Lee surrendered to Union General Grant at the Battle of Appomattox Courthouse after Lee had abandoned Petersburg and Richmond. Confederate generals throughout the Confederate Army followed suit. The conclusion of the American Civil War lacks a clean end date. Land forces continued surrendering until June 23rd. By the end of the war, because it's not just ending, but there were lots of wars, battles in here and there. Much of the South's infrastructure was destroyed, especially its railroads. The Confederacy collapsed, slavery was abolished, and 4 million enslaved black people were freed. The war-torn nation then entered the Reconstruction era in a partially successful attempt to rebuild the country and granted civil rights to free slaves. The Civil War is one of the most studied and written about episodes in the history of the United States. It remains the subject of cultural and historiographical debate. Of particular interest is the persisting myth of the lost cause of the Confederacy. The American Civil War was among the earliest to use industrial warfare. Railroads, the telegraph, steamships, the ironclad warship, and mass-produced weapons saw wide use. In total, the war left between 620,000 and 750,000 soldiers dead. Can you believe it? Among the undetermined number of civilian casualties, President Lincoln was assassinated just 5 days after Lee's surrender. The Civil War remains the deadliest military conflict in American history. The technology and brutality of the Civil War foreshadowed the coming world wars. Well, so there are lots of beginnings of conflicts, and all conflicts are hard. There is no just a little conflict we can say, because all conflicts are difficult. Whether that is like a war, like a civil war, but to the conflict between you and your spouse, or you and yourself, all conflicts are hard. So, but we just saw the beginnings of the conflicts, and we can just understand what we can take care of those conflicts, and how we can just take care of those conflicts. Sooner the better, but sometimes you cannot avoid it because you cannot handle it, and all conflicts are not all your faults. But we understand the beginnings of the conflicts, and then we can see how and when we have to prevent or stop or reduce the conflicts. That's why we are working on the conflicts. See.